Good morning, Wolfcats. Okay, so one of the things that folks submitted to the officer crew for the survey, or as a result of our recent survey, was a little bit more focus on mods, how to mod, how to uh, pick your mods, how to optimize mods for all the different game modes that we're being asked to compete in, from arena to the TWs and GAs and TBs, etc. So there's a couple of tools that I would suggest, and this video is not going to have any game footage at all in there, because I think that unfortunately, the way that the game is currently, if you're dealing with your mods in game, you're doing it wrong. So there's a couple of tools that we have had over the years that have been developed to help out, and if you're not using those, I would highly suggest doing so. And so I'm going to focus on the way that I mod, because I think I've been relatively successful in that, in getting my farming a lot more focused, and in picking specific teams that I know are going to be successful within the game based on the priorities that I set. So now let's talk about, this Grand Ivory tool. It's at modsoptimizer.swgoh.grandivory.com. This thing is a godsend. But you have to know how to use it, and you have to know how to use it right in order to get the best results out of it. And to avoid, one of the primary goals that I have is to not have to move mods around very often, right? Once I get a team modded, I want it to be done until I get a better mod for that team, and then I can just sub out one or two mods at a time to improve performance, rather than having to completely reinvent the wheel and redo it. So this is the first tool that I would recommend acquainting yourself with in detail. Really simple. You plug in your player ID, you hit fetch my data. Always keep the checkbox, remember existing mods, checked, so that you have all of the mods that are there. Now, a couple of things to note, right? This can only get the mods from your bank that are equipped. So for some of you, that may be pretty painful initially. What I would recommend doing, what I did, was to go through and make sure that, go down to your trash tunes, ideally not right before a GA starts, but go down into your trash tools, everybody that has empty mods, sort in game to anything with over 10 speed, and get those equipped on a character. Doesn't matter what character. The optimizer is going to have you move them all around, but get them on a character so that they're visible, right? Those 10 plus speed mods are gold. And, if you have 8 or 9 teams that have 10 plus speed mods on them, by the time you're done with the optimizer, your opponents in TW and GA just won't. They're not going to be able to hang. So that's kind of my first piece of advice, right? Is to make sure that you have that set up, so that your mods are visible. If you've got some other interesting mods, I would also recommend, anything that's hit 4 times. So if you've got an S tier protection mod because it rolled protection 4 times, and has like 2,500 protection on it, make sure that that's equipped too. Offense mods that have 140, 150 offense on them, really anything over 100, should probably be equipped on a toon at least once, so that you can fetch the data and get it into your mod set. After you've kind of done that and you click fetch your data, it's going to refresh your mods. It's going to pull all your toons, so 170 characters, 870 mods that are pulled in there. They had the reminder up there that it can only see equipped mods unless you've got it remembered, but at some point it has to have seen them. Next step is to prioritize, and I would highly recommend prioritizing your arena team. So for me right now, Darth Revan, HK47. Ah, trying to pull all of them over. HK47, I'm going to need, I'm running Scion, I'm running Nihilus, and I'm running Ms. Hot Topic. All right, so now I've got my arena team over here, and I want to put them in the order that I want the machine to maximize them, right? And so for me, Darth Revan has the absolute fastest baseline speed. Bastila Shan has the, I need her to be as fast as possible. It's more important that my Bastila goes before their Bastila than my Revan going before their Revan. That's just, even if Bastila is locked down, she'll still put on her passive corrupted battle meditation buffs. So I need her to be as fast as humanly possible. HK, I want my best offense mods on, so he's not really going to interfere with the speeds. I don't have speed that high a priority. In fact, I can probably turn that down on him a little bit. And I know that I want an offense set on him, so I have that set up, right? When I go to Bastila, I want speed and I want potency. And I want them to be in sets because this is the first toon that I'm optimizing. So I've got all of my best mods available to me. I know what I need and I know what I want out of it, but I also can't afford to have 6 of my best speed mods on Bastila if they happen to have really great secondaries, right? I'm going to need those to have Scion and Revan going as fast as possible. So while, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense sometimes to insist on sets when you start getting into the second and third team that you're optimizing, right off the bat, I think that it makes a whole lot of sense to use that feature to kind of narrow down. I have my whole bank of mods to pull from, and I need potency on that character. So set it up kind of the way that you want it. There are some fantastic features in here where you can pick a specific speed range, right? Like I need Scion to go between 288 and 300. I want him as fast as I can get him, and I want Bastila really to be 1 speed faster, right? And so I initially, well, I'll just walk through how I came up with this, right? How did I come up with this bottom? When I optimized it the first time, actually, let me just pull that out of here for a second. This is going to be, it does take a while when you set these specific targets, so don't do it for every toon. It's unnecessary. But I got him out of there. Now I can quickly, did not save that? Right. Okay, so the reason that Scion is at 280 is 288, right, is that the way I have my Bastila modded right now, she is at 287. I want Scion to go right before her, so if I'm fighting a Jedi Knight Revan team, I can strip Tenacity up right before Bastila's turn, because I want to make sure that she can land her debuffs effectively. That's the key to getting things going. So I saw, okay, when I optimized Bastila, I got 99 potency, I got 287 speed out of her. Okay, that's pretty solid. I'm going to go back and say, okay, Scion, I need you going faster than her, right? And so I need you to be at least at 288. I don't really care what the upper limit is, right? I mean, 302, 340. I'm not going to have the mods to get him there. But I want to have some stuff left for Revan. So I really want him in a pretty narrow speed range. So I'm going to say speed is what I want. 288 to 30 to 300. Or I could even do 295, right? Because I want them to be really, 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 really close. And the reason that I'm walking through this is just so that you guys understand how to use some of the advanced tools. If you already know are very familiar with Grand Ivory's mod optimizer, by all means, keep doing that. Keep doing what you're doing now. So then I optimize my mods, right? And I optimize. It's going to take a little bit longer because of Scion's very specific needs that I have in there. And I'm going to get the mods that I have to move around. Now, in this particular case, I already have this team modded, so I'm not going to, go through the process of having to move mods around. Just kind of wanted to walk through that first initial arena setup. After this, you've got, I had 170 toons, right? I've picked 5. I've got 165 toons left to mod. That's in some ways awful. And I don't have all day to do this, right? I've got half an hour before my wife gets home with the groceries, and I've got to get my Sunday sort of going. So I can only take a couple of teams, right? So how do I make this a manageable thing so that I'm not stuck here trying to remod for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours? Because it can be pretty intimidating. So here's what we're going to do. Now we've got our first team, right? I'm happy with what it's got here. My HK is going to be 192 crit damage. He's got some good speed on him, even though he doesn't really need it. I just wanted the offense, and he's got an extra 1,000 offense on there. Scion, 289, sort of exactly where I wanted him. Right, it's not having me move a whole lot of mods around right now because this team was already optimized for what I wanted them to do. So then I would say, hey, show me the mods to move. Hey, I don't have any mods to move left. Great job. Cool. Change my selection. Now I lock those, right? I don't want those mods being included in any future optimization. And I can start sort of working on the next team that I want to mod. In this case, I'm going to go with my Jedi Knight Revan because this is still a very, very viable team, top line. And I can put these anywhere, right? It doesn't, I'm actually going to keep them sort of up near the top as I move them in for ease of use. But I know I want Revan to go fast. I want Jolie to have a lot of health. I want Bastila to be pretty fast. I want Yoda to have an incredible amount of offense. And then I need Mr. General Kenobi. I don't really care as much about his stats, right? So of this, now my top priority is Jedi Knight Revan. Then I want Yoda's offense, I want Jolie's health, I want Bastila to have speed, and I want Kenobi to have lots of health and protection, right? So I can go through and set that up, right? I care about damage on Revan, and I care about speed. Go get me mods that do that. Okay, I'm still not setting sets over here for these guys because I really want this team to be viable. I need the speed on those toons. Have to have it. But like on Yoda, I know I want an offense set, right? Even if right now I've got some odds that are better, have better offense secondaries or something that would come up with a better answer, that gives me something to work on if that's the case. So I'm going to insist on certain sets. For Jolie, I just want some health and some speed and a little tenacity, right? I'm not as concerned, right? For Bastila, decided, okay, speed and potency, I can probably take potency off, right? I just need the speed on her. But that way you can pin in certain sets for certain characters if you know that you want that. And I would really recommend doing that after, but only after you work through the first couple of teams, right? Because at that point, you're likely out of really, really elite speed mods, right? You're depending on where you're at with mod farming, your 20 pluses are going to be gone. Um, you're probably down into the okay, lots of things are kind of 14 to 18 range speed. If you don't have a lot of mods in that range, farm, farm every day. Go get yourself more mods. But you should have lots and lots and lots of mods that are in that sort of 14 to 18 speed range. And so then it comes down to optimizing the other secondary stats. And the way that you can do that within this tool is by controlling the sets that are on your tunes. So I'm going to lock those up and because that team's already sort of optimized, right? Now I've got my first and my second team. Those are the only two teams I use in Arena. I do use them both in Arena every day. They're optimized. What do I do now? Right? I still have 160 tunes to mod. And this is where I really feel like your priorities have to come in, right? I sat down and kind of, okay, what's the order that I care about teams? And within those teams, who are the tunes that are the engines of those teams, right? BB-8 is in bold here on the JTR team because BB-8 is the engine of that team. If BB-8's speed is really high, the whole team goes faster. You get out in front with JTR, you have a much better chance of winning than if you're behind. So whether that's a mirror match or whether it's taking against anybody else, that's a tune that needs to be really fast. This is a list from when, Finley before it got nerfed. So Poe had to be really fast. Starck on the troopers had to be really fast. That's what I would recommend doing with your next sets. Right? Is pull in the tunes that you absolutely need to be super fast because they're the engine of their given team. Um, that will allow you to make sure that you have the maximum number of viable teams out there. If my Stark's not fast enough, I'm not going to be able to take down a good Night Sister squad, right? And that's or a good Bounty Hunter squad, and so I have to have Stark fast in order to get that train going. Um, those are the tunes that I would recommend getting in here next and getting set up for speed. Get them optimized. Once you have them done, oh, one thing to mention here, right? Again, there's very few circumstances that I like to use the targets set. But if you guys watched my video on taking down JKR with Treya, you know that I have a priority to have my Thrawn just slower than my Scion, right? We just optimized my Scion. Um, so I want Thrawn to be in a very narrow range of speed so that he is right behind Scion when I'm using him in that context. So I'm going to use the feature that allows me to pen in that speed and then optimize for that. Other than that, like BB-8, he's just getting speed, right? There's nothing else he needs. Starck, just really getting speed. I've left, the generic in there because it's going to prioritize speed over everything else with those kind of numbers in there. So you go in and you get your engine tunes fixed up, right? One that I absolutely don't have modded right now is Vader, right? I can have him be, he's again an engine 40 P team. And you can see, right, my EP is only gear 11 still, so I've got some opportunity there. But I'm going to take these tunes that I need to be really, 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 really fast, that are going to engine the team. Kylo Ren, right? Engine of the First Order squad. I need him really, really fast. Get those toons done next, right? So they get those like 18s and 19s that may be sitting in your roster taken care of, right? It's going to make such a difference to the overall effectiveness of your roster once you get out of that top tier. And that's really the key for being really successful in TW and GA is to have a bunch of teams that are really competitive, right? It does me no good to have three hyper maxed teams and a whole bunch of trash. That's not going to get me results that I need when I need 8 to 10 squads that are highly competitive. And to make it as much of a burden on my opponent as possible and to give me the best chance on offense as possible, I need to have certain toons on certain teams fixed up really, really strong, right? Nest is another one, right? Nest, depending on the build, for the most part, will need either a ton of speed or a ton of tenacity and health, right? So depending on where you're set up, you change her targets around, uh, give her the build that you want, and then get these toons that are high priorities as individuals optimized. Take care of them. Um, at that point, right, you've got all these taken care of. Probably take a break, right? I mean, you just did a lot of work. Um, throw some extra mods in just to fill in anybody that's a pilot, etc., that you had to strip a mod from in that process, and move on. Then when you come back to it, right, you can start working on your priority teams. So whether that's your Treya team or your CLS team or this now irrelevant Bastila team, because Bastila exists on something else. Like I said, last edit of this was the last time I really did a massive remod. Um, Night Sisters, right? I knew kind of, okay, this is the team that I wanted to run at that point with Night Sisters. At this point, it would probably be Spirit or Asajj, right? Or not Asajj, Barris. But I'm going to pick that team, right? And then you throw that team into the optimizer. You leave everything you've already done locked. And this is where um, you really want to start taking advantage of the sets, and you want to use the recommendations from either yourself if you feel like you've got a really 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 good grasp on modding and you know exactly how you want to set these guys up from a set perspective in an ideal world. And that's kind of what you're thinking about here is, hey, what's the ideal comp um, in terms of mods for each of one of these tunes from a set perspective, and program those in, right? Crouching Rancor is a great resource for that. It's not perfect. There's a lot of crap in there, but if I look at Rebels, for instance, on the app.crouchingrancor.com, the mods advisor, right? Commander Luke Skywalker. Um, do I want to set him up for raids? Do I want to set him up for arena, right? If assuming that I want a raid setup, because even though I'm going to be using him for TW and TA, like, all right, well, he's a really important raid tune to me. Not so much anymore, right? But so let's say I'm going to go with this. I'm going to have my speed and my health set up. So I go over to my optimizer. Okay, give me speed and health. Cool, done. Lock that in. If this doesn't give me the result that I'm looking for, if I don't feel like the mods that I can get on these guys are good enough, then that should go to the top of your farming list, right? I want crit chance and crit damage. And again, I'm just going through, this is not advanced theory. There's all kinds of different ways. Well, different people set it up. Maybe on offense set, it's an offense and tenacity set for Chewie, etc. But if I'm just going with the basics, right? And the point of this is not to make you guys super mod experts, but to just show you the way that I've found to try to be really efficient with this. I'm going to set up the sets because when I'm done, again, if then I find a great crit damage mod in the store and it rolls some good secondary stats, I'm just replacing mods on toons. I don't have to go through and re-optimize my whole roster because I'm breaking up a set, right? I already have everybody in a pretty good set place. And if there's important secondaries, right? If I want to insist that Han Solo gets an offense cross and an offense primary, I can mod for that. And you know what? If I'm unhappy with the results that come back for Han on that, then that means I need to farm those mods, right? And the higher the team is on your list of priorities, the more urgent that need is. So if I know that let's go down to Han here, crit chance, crit damage, no shock. So I go crit chance, and I go crit damage. And I've got that, I want crit damage, triangle, and an offense cross. Okay, that's more like the actual way that I want Han to run. And actually, I want an offense triangle on him too. Speed, less important, all about damage. Okay, so as an example, I'm going to go ahead and pull him up to the top here and optimize. All right, so now I got my current Han Solo mods, which are a little bit of a mess, right? I do have my crit damage set on there, but I don't have a crit chance set. And his crit chance is still pretty good, right? 71%. All right, so let's see what I got here. Okay, so with that setup, right, it's having me move some mods around, a lot of mods around off of other characters, but I mean, he got most of Snowtrooper's set. Okay, no problem. I've got his damage going up doing that, which is obviously crucial. He's losing a little bit of speed, but he doesn't need a whole lot of speed. And crit chance is going up to 83, right? So I'm boosting those stats pretty big time while maintaining that crit damage. And if I wasn't happy with something in here, then I know that that's a mod that I need to farm, right? And that I need to be looking for actively if he's my top priority next character. Same thing with like a Traya, right? If I pull Traya in here and I have her set up, I want tenacity, I want protection, I don't really care about speed as much, some defense, and I want to make sure that she gets a crit avoidance arrow because that's my preference. I know that some in the guild would disagree and say that, hey, like a defense or a protection primary on the triangle is more important. I found that, for me, I want crit chance. So I know that I want that stat, so I'm going to engineer her setup to do it. Force her into it, and then when I optimize, I'm going to get a mod set back for Traya that, well, in this case is already optimized because I have her set up, right? But it's going to give her a lot of tenacity that I wanted. It's going to give her a lot of protection that I wanted, etc. But prioritizing those things and locking them into the sets then allows you to continue to improve your mods without completely remodding your teams, which is, for all of us, right, a major burden in terms of time. And, I don't want to have to do it that often. It's miserable to redo your whole roster. But if as you're going through, you're sort of sticking to sets and keeping a farming list, just like you would with your favorites, of hey, these are mods that I'm looking for, right? I'm looking for potency mods for Talzin. I'm looking for crit damage mods for Han, whatever the case may be. Then as you're that those can be your priorities as you're farming mods. And as you're farming mods every day, you'll find, okay, well, you'll get a new mod. And you can go back and say, okay, well, who needs that offense cross with that's a speed set that I have? So, I use this tool all the time. And again, I know it's not perfect, but if I just got a really nice, no, of course I picked something that doesn't have anything in there. Let's not do an arrow because it recommends speed for like everything. So I got this tenacity triangle, right? Nobody likes tenacity. Sorry, bad examples here. Oh, because I've got rebels picked. Durr. Oh, there we go. Okay, so I just found this potency crit damage triangle. Who needs that? Oh, shit. That's like a perfect mod for Canderous. Maybe I'm not actively working on Canderous right now, but it doesn't matter. I'm trying to optimize across my whole roster, and this is a perfect mod for that guy. So I'm going to load it on there. If I find myself a health cross in a speed set, right? Who does that benefit? Who can potentially make the best use of it and see if it's an improvement for them. That way you don't have to go back to the mod optimizer each time or monthly, etc. You really only have to do this when you want to spin up a new arena team or tweak a specific team for turn order or a goal. And with the new abilities within here to set that speed, in particular, in terms of targets, it's a lot easier to optimize that turn order. So if there are a couple of pieces of advice in terms of mod selection, mod management, it's to go through and do this once. Do 2 or 3 teams a day. That way it's only a 15, 20-minute commitment. And you'll get through your top 10 teams in less than a week, right? And then those teams are just set, and you only need to worry about increasing and subbing out mods as you get better ones, which makes it a whole lot easier, less intimidating, and more rewarding to farm mods because you can pen those mods into exactly the toon that needs them when you find them, instead of waiting for a remod to do it. And that keeps your mods up to date and effective as soon as possible. So I hope that this was in some way helpful as we kind of start to work through some of the demystification of mods and the way that some of us are working with the tools that exist outside of the game to try to manage mods. I think I'm going to be doing a little bit on mod farming and mod slicing and upgrading over the next week or so. But this is kind of where I wanted to start because I think that the first step is knowing what you have and what you need. And that really can't be done until you get the mods that you have optimized for the toons that you need. And even if that leads to a set of mods that are, less than ideal for a B or C squad, like my bounty hunter mods are not ideal. Okay, well, you know what? They need a lot of potency, a lot of tenacity, a lot of speed, right? So now I'm going to go farm those mods, and as I get decent mods as I'm farming, I can start subbing them out and putting them on the teams that need them and improving those teams. So getting the baseline, even if it doesn't leave you where you want to be, can show you where you need those opportunities and where you need to be dedicating your slicing and dedicating your farming to, which is kind of the next step. So I hope this is helpful, and we'll talk to you guys real soon.